Thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Everyone is joined on mute, and we will be recording this. Everybody, thank you for joining. We'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. Everyone is joining on mute, and we'll be recording today's webinar. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. We've got a few people still joining here, so we'll get started in just another minute. Everyone is joining on mute, and we'll be recording today's webinar and sharing following. All right, hello, and thank you everyone for joining today. We'll go ahead and get started. We have a lot of information to cover. I know there's still some people joining, so we'll welcome you when you get here. Thank you today for joining our webinar. Today we're going to be going through a lot of material for Dynamics GP users and what are your next best steps. Thank you all for joining us. I have just a few housekeeping items to go over before we get started. All lines have been muted to eliminate any background noise, but if you experience any technical difficulties, please let us know using the chat panel at the bottom of your screen. We'll also be taking questions throughout today's webinar, and we'll answer as many as time allows. So feel free to submit your questions at any time. You can do this in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And we can also encourage you to use the chat features. We have a lot of Dynamics GP users on our webinar today, and a lot of people are going to be in the same situation that you are. So happy to connect everyone and use the Q&A panel to reach out to your peers. After today's event, you'll be receiving an email with slides from today's presentation, the recording, and a survey link. Please submit your survey, as your survey will enter you into a raffle drawing for a Solo Stove Mesa tabletop fire pit. As we have a lot of new faces today, I also want to take a few minutes just to tell you about us here at LBMC Technology Solutions. We like to say that we're your team for everything you need for technology for your business, from help desk and IT to fully outsourced managed IT solutions. We are the team that you can call to tackle any technology product, from something small like Microsoft 365 licensing to large scale infrastructure projects like we're going to be talking about today. If you think of a need, feel free to drop it in the chat or send us an email at info@lbmctech.com. Now on to our webinar. Please help me welcome our presenter for today's webinar, Sandy Wickman. Sandy is a Dynamics GP expert with over 25 years experience in inventory, manufacturing, and distribution. As a business process solution miner and implementer, Sandy has a keen eye for identifying areas of improvement and for implementing solutions that streamline operations and increase efficiency. Often referred to as an inventory nerd, Sandy has a talent for breaking down complex concepts and processes in easy to understand terms, making her an invaluable resource for businesses looking to optimize their operations. Thank you so much, Sandy, for presenting today. Now, without further ado, on to our webinar.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm very pleased to be here with you today and speak to you about GP and the life of GP. So for a number of years, there's been a buzz coming from Microsoft about the life term of the Dynamics GP product that was formerly known as Great Plains. As recently as October of 2022, there was an announcement made at the User Group Summit Conference by Mike Morton, who is a Microsoft VP for the Dynamics 365 Business Central product. And he stated, there will be no more new releases and no more new features for Dynamics GP. Hundreds of attendees at the summit were immediately left wondering what this means for GP users and those who support GP through professional services and or partnering software solutions. It took a very short time for that statement to be redacted, or shall I say, clarified. Important details for you from that clarification include Microsoft is fully committed to supporting our Dynamics GP customers. This will include new releases for the foreseeable future on the same timeline and schedule as we have done in the past several years, as outlined in the GP Modern Support Lifecycle. If you are an existing GP customer, you can be confident in using Dynamics GP to run your business for years to come. New releases will contain regulatory, tax, security updates, and hotfixes, ensuring GP remains up to date. New releases will also include updates in usability, reliability, addressing top customer issues, and other areas that are critical in ensuring businesses run successfully on GP. I've also included a link at the bottom of this slide that gives you a place where you can go vote on things that will become part of what the usability new features are for future releases of GP. So while Microsoft is absolutely clear that we should not expect to see GP gain significant new capabilities like new modules, GP is not going away. Microsoft's major investments and innovations will be in other Dynamics 365 offerings such as Dynamics BC and Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain, to name a few. Further within Mike Morton's clarification statement, he said, we do encourage customers to talk with their partner about whether one of our other products may be a good fit, all the while being assured that Dynamics GP will continue to be updated and supported, allowing customers to make the choice that's right for their business. So before we go farther with the topic of GP, I wanted to clarify for you what the ERP offerings are from Microsoft. So Dynamics GP, we all know and love. Microsoft Dynamics 365 BC is Business Central. It was formerly the NAV product and is a mid-market SaaS ERP offering, software as a service. And then the third one is Microsoft Dynamics 365 F&SC, or used to be AX or Dynamics 365 F&O. This is a tier 1 product offering, which competes with Oracle's and SAP enterprise level products in both the scale and the costs. So while it's an exceptional ERP offering, it may not be right for mid-market users. So what's the latest news from Microsoft? As late as April 4th, 2023, so just a few days ago, what's the latest news and how does it impact you? Generally speaking, it has little impact on existing GP customers. This latest announcement further advises GP customers that the product is slowly approaching its end of life. But this is the same message that I've heard for 20 years. Certainly, more is being said and more loudly now as time marches on. But most importantly, GP customers can be assured that GP is continuing to be supported by Microsoft, and the support lifecycle remains the same through 2028 and beyond. No new customer sales after 2026, no new customer sales, but that's 3 years from now. And the price of the annual enhancements is going up. Existing customers have nothing to fear at this moment. So The purpose for our webinar today is to help with clarification of our understanding of the GP roadmap and to present options to you for your long-term ERP journey. We at LBMC Technologies are committed to partnering with you, our valued customers, to your ERP journey success. We like to call this Trek Your Cloud journey, which, since whatever ERP solution set you select, there are elements of cloud technology that go within that solution set. Dynamics GP users should be evaluating your options. You should be considering what's next for you. This is successfully done by planning, and including all of the successful companies go through some sort of planning towards this end. At some point, it makes sense for you to migrate to a new ERP system. For now, there's still the choice to stay on the system that you know and already own, Microsoft Dynamics GP. So what's the current stated roadmap offered by Microsoft? What is Lifecycle and why does it matter to you? In October of 2019, Microsoft introduced the Modern Lifecycle policy for Dynamics GP. Before that date, the solution was governed by a fixed lifecycle policy. The Modern policy offers continuous support and servicing with no specified end date, including bug fixes, latest tax updates, etc. Customers stay current by taking at least one of the 3 yearly Dynamics GP releases. The fixed lifecycle policy had defined end dates for the version and releases of GP. You see in this image, GP 2013, 2015, etc., where the life of those versions had defined end dates. With the Modern Lifecycle, you're seeing versions like GP 18.3, 18.4, 18.5, with a current stated life of 2028 and beyond. All 3 of these have inclusive updates 3 times a year in October, June, and December, with each year the October being the feature release. The updates will typically consist of hot fixes, tax updates, relevant regulatory updates. The updates can also include usability, reliability, address top customer issues, and any other areas that are critical in making sure that businesses can run successfully on GP. You can make a difference. By continuing to faithfully pay your annual enhancements of the Dynamics GP product to us at LBMC, which then flows to Microsoft, it helps ensure that Microsoft has the funds and the commitment to continue to support the product. Are you on an older version of GP prior to the Modern Lifecycle versions, or even an earlier version within the Modern Lifecycle? As you can see from this graph, some of those versions are no longer supported by Microsoft under the mainstream support. We at LBMC Technologies suggest that you contact us as soon as possible to schedule an upgrade to the latest GP version. Regardless of how long you intend to continue to be using GP, we at LBMC will continue to support your use of the system. However, it becomes challenging to do so when other Microsoft technologies, such as updates to operating systems, change the relationship to your older ERP version. An example of this challenge occurred for many GP customers when they had been able to email directly from GP, and suddenly they could no longer do that due to changes in their operating system. Those challenges are minimized when you're on a current GP version. You may be wondering what the robust ISV community commitment is to remaining current and supporting your existing and/or newly selected operational requirements within GP. As Microsoft even noted, GP has one of the most robust ISV communities due to its length of time in the marketplace, along with the serious talent of so many committed people in this channel. We need to know that the ISVs also don't have the bandwidth to retroactively support all prior versions of their own software. It's just too labor intensive to keep all of them available for forever. Statements made directly from one of the ISVs that we're associated with, Horizons Manufacturing, even reads, "We know that the feature set of Dynamics GP, when rolled up with the range of ISV solutions, is by far one of the broadest and richest available. It's going to take quite a bit longer for a solution to emerge that can compete with the richness of the Dynamics GP product offering in specialty areas like manufacturing. And we believe," that's Horizon speaking, "we believe that whatever the lifecycle commitments are from Microsoft, our customers will likely keep running Horizon software for at least another 5 to 10 years beyond that." So I'm going to pause now. We have a poll question available for you. So you'll experience about 60 seconds of silence while you take an opportunity to reply to this poll.
Sandy, while we're wrapping up these last few seconds on the poll, I did want to remind everyone that if you are pursuing CPE, planning on earning CPE for this webinar, please make sure that you participate in the poll questions and stay for the entirety of the webinar. And we will be sending out those CPE certificates in the next 5 to 7 days for anyone that qualifies.
Okay, great. So what does your cloud journey look like? Are you just beginning to talk about it, considering a defined timeline? Have you taken steps to review software options? Has your timeline even been defined? Or it is your journey, and we're here to act as your trusted advisors and technical experts to not only help guide you, but help provide best-of-breed solution options. I love this image. I'm going to give you a second to take a look at this and just see if you can figure out where you might be in your change process. Isn't that fun? So it can be quite challenging to get your bearings for a transformation project that includes not only software, but the change project that impacts all of your personnel. Any ERP software, change, addition, migration, upgrade, has a significant element of change management within it. How can you best prepare your teams for the changes that would be upcoming in a major software change? Well, in my experience, there are 2 success factors to consider. Number 1, partner with someone who has successfully led new ERP projects through multiple customer teams. We at LBMC have deep skills with long tenured staff who are anxious to partner with you. And number 2, leadership. By establishing vocal and visible internal leaders to your project, the message users get is the commitment to make it work. One of the ways that we at LBMC Technology can support you in your next steps is a business process review, or BPR. LBMC consultants have experience at best practices for businesses, and they possess the knowledge to ask the right questions of your team to get an understanding of how to make the best use of your entire ERP system, both now and into the future. It is a paid engagement. A statement of work would be defined with your input and approval on the costs. You can expect to receive a written report detailing the findings as well as our recommendations. With a clear understanding of where you are currently, you have a better vantage point to create the roadmap to where you're going. Depending on the size of your team, the modules and the ISVs that you're currently using, and your availability determines the length of time that this process takes. And typically there might be 20 to 30 hours of interviews, followed by maybe a couple of weeks of time for the write-up to be completed. And then we have a session to review the findings with you and see how you'd like to move forward. Many times, software can be deployed to bring efficiencies now and into your cloud journey. Process improvements now help lead you to efficiencies all along your cloud path. A simple example might be inactivating GL accounts that are not used any longer helps you to know what might need to be transitioned to your new ERP or not. A customer whose comments are on the screen, who was on GP 2015 until recently, chose to invest in the BPR process as a first step to their cloud journey. From the report that they received, the client was able to identify how little of GP product they were currently actually taking advantage of, and how many of their ERP requirements actually have now been developed into the GP product in current versions. Armed with this information, they've proceeded through a successful upgrade to the Dynamics GP 18.5 version and are in the process of implementing a number of new functionalities. The BPR proved to be a valuable collaborative effort tool, which helped them make choices towards their next steps on their cloud journey. Are you fully utilizing the software that you own? Think about that question. Are you aware of all the capabilities that GP has? Could your team benefit from something like fuzzy search capabilities? Do you constantly run out of concurrent user licenses and have to call people to kick them out so that you can get your work done? Are you taking advantage of the intra-functionality of the Microsoft stack, such as data available directly in Excel without having to log into GP at all? We're ready for poll question number 2. Again, you'll experience a few moments of silence. Okay, thank you, Nicole. You want to show our results? So we have some room for opportunity improvement there. Looks like there are 25 to 50% is the majority of opportunity use of your current system. SaaS, software as a service, SaaS, it's new words that we hear a lot of lately, SaaS. And with a cloud solution, you have the software cost up front and then any additional training and customizations added on. With an on-premise solution, you have the software cost, the customization, the training added on, but additionally, all the hidden costs of hardware, IT personnel, maintenance, upgrades, etc. Soon there can be so many costs under the tip of the iceberg, you feel like you're taking on water. When calculated out, the return on investment shows that the costs level out when going to a subscription or SaaS product in a relatively short period of time. Another acronym you may hear a lot of is IaaS, which is Infrastructure as a Service. So one of the alternatives that we have currently with you for your GP solution is to allow LBMC to host your GP. That's Infrastructure as a Service. This removes the need for your IT team to manage aging hardware, address ongoing security and new threats. Let us help you by providing backups and redundancy, remote monitoring and control, Active Directory administration, infrastructure patching and updating, and much more. Is it not top of all of our minds these days to be as secure and still be as accessible as possible? Are you ready to begin the software selection process of your cloud journey? Have you moved on far enough to be able to really consider additional softwares? And poll question number 3. Okay, Nicole. Minimally, we utilize some simple tools, but could use some help. That's the predominance of the answers with that one. So what options are available for you for a SaaS solution through LBMC? We're proud to be a highly awarded value-added reseller for Dynamics BC as well as Sage Intacct. Microsoft is putting significant resources into making Dynamics BC the best of the mid-market SaaS product offerings. With ongoing quarterly releases to the software, you would be presented with all of the development efforts Microsoft is making available. Sage Intacct is a cloud accounting software product and financial management solution that delivers deep accounting capabilities, including payroll, tax filing, and inventory tracking tools across multiple industries, designed with the goal to accelerate your business success. As with Microsoft for Dynamics BC, Sage rolls out quarterly updates to the Intacct software, so no large-scale efforts to plan for the cost and complexity of upgrades, as you may have experienced with GP in the past. Both Dynamics BC and Sage Intacct have a robust and growing set of add-on applications. Many of them may even be familiar to you, such as Avalara for tax compliance, and many of the well-known AP automation vendors who have also had offerings in the GP space as well. These make the overall software solution sets quite robust and highly available. Are you aware that both Sage and Microsoft are offering incentives to make the cost of change less than you thought it might be? We're here to help you know what the financial impacts could be on your organization. And poll question number 4. Okay, Nicole, let's see how we did. Maybe. Then people would like to have someone follow up, so that's great. Migration, upgrade, implementation. These words are not all synonymous. They're not synonymous. You may have heard that BC is just an upgrade from GP. That is not the case. While there are tool sets to help migrate specific data from GP to another ERP solution, it is not the same as just doing an upgrade of GP. We at LBMC have tool sets and professional expertise available on our technical teams to implement with you the software solution set that best meets your needs. We would really like to be a part of your trusted advisor group as you navigate your cloud journey. Here are some of the ways that we can bring value to this process. So where do we go from here? Nicole, would you like to introduce our panel? I think we're ready for questions.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And again, I know we've covered a lot of material. Sandy covered a lot. If you have any specific questions about anything that Sandy covered that's outside of today's webinar, feel free to reach out to us at info@lbmctech.com. Now we'll transition over to our power panel portion of today's webinar. Joining Sandy, please allow me to introduce our expert panelists for today's power panel. We're joined by two seasoned professionals from LBMC Technology Solutions, Brian Wilton, Chief Revenue Officer, and Kenneth Sims, Chief Delivery Officer. Brian brings over 2 decades of experience in technology sales and leadership to his role as CRO at LBMC Tech. Brian's held several executive positions at leading technology companies and is widely recognized as an expert in driving revenue growth and building high-performing sales teams. Brian's also a graduate of Walsh College of Accountancy with a degree in accounting and computer programming. Kenneth Sims is Chief Delivery Officer here at LBMC Technology Solutions and brings over 35 years of experience in IT consulting and project management. Kenneth's got a proven track record of delivering successful technology solutions for clients across a variety of industries and is a graduate of David Lipscomb University with a degree in computer science. Thank you both for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So Kenneth, I'll have this first question for you. For organizations that have already heavily invested in Dynamics GP, and they might have an older server or some older infrastructure happening, what are some of the options for migrating to a cloud hosted environment, and maybe outline some of the benefits?
All right, certainly. So we have several options for LBMC. We're a certified cloud solution provider for Amazon Web Services, or AWS, as well as Microsoft Azure. Those are two of the typical solutions that we'll be looking at for our clients who are looking, for options as far as hosting GP is concerned. We typically recommend, if there's no preference from a client standpoint, we typically recommend AWS, just in terms of our use of that product and some of the tools that we have available to us in terms of managing your environment. It works very well, but Microsoft Azure is also a very good solution. Sometimes that decision comes down to whether or not you want to kind of stay on the Microsoft stack, and there's other reasons why you want to have an Azure environment. Perhaps you've already got other applications in Azure. You want to take advantage of some of the other products on the Microsoft platform that would make that more seamless process with Microsoft Azure. So we can go either way with that, depending upon what your needs are. In terms of the benefits, we've kind of seen in our history of, we've been doing GP support here for 20 plus years. We know that in some cases, supporting your accounting platform is not the #1 priority of your internal IT team. Sometimes they're going to be focused primarily on your revenue generating activities and the systems required to interact or provide services to your customers. And so what this does, it allows you to then take that off the burden of your internal IT team, where we can host that for you. And so LBMC becomes responsible not only for all of the infrastructure and the hardware and all the security around that hosted environment for GP, but we are also providing your GP support. And so by having that all contained through Dynamics, through LBMC, we can provide that support and perhaps provide more services than your current internal IT team can provide. And so that's one of the benefits from doing that. The other, primary benefit to moving to the cloud with your current version of GP, it certainly makes the options of how you access that data remotely and those systems remotely much more convenient. So putting in remote desktop servers and remote desktop environments, you can be anywhere in the world and still gain access, secured data, gained access to your systems wherever you might be. And I'm sure all of us who want to work on GP as long as we can into the evenings, I'm sure that goes on, especially during month-end close. The other thing to also remember is that in many cases, because of the scale and the resources we can bring to the table, we can provide much more enhanced services around security and how those systems are secured, which, as you're aware, in today's kind of environment, security is really huge on everyone's list, with ransomware and viruses and things of that nature. And so making sure that you've got your environment in a secure cloud location using these vendors like Microsoft and Amazon Web Services, who are really providing a lot of security services in addition to the security that we can provide with other solutions that we add to those different stacks, can really greatly enhance the level of security you have around your solutions today. So that's just a few of the things to keep in mind as you consider whether cloud hosting of your GP environment may be helpful to you.
Thank you, Kenneth. That's a great explanation. We have a question coming in from the attendees today. I'll direct this one to you, Brian. Can you explain the difference between mainstream support and extended support?
Yeah. So mainstream support is kind of what we've all been under for decades now. And so that's when Microsoft is enhancing the product, they're investing in new features, they're taking ideas from partners and customers and putting all that onto a list. Many times we get to vote for what goes into the next release or two. They're also providing service packs, which includes bug fixes, payroll updates, so they fit to the new 1099 and the W-2 form, W-3 forms and stuff. They're applying security updates. If there's some security issue with the product, they fix that. And so it's really a living, breathing product, and it's getting attention and money investment dollars from the publisher, in this case Microsoft. So that's mainstream support. Extended support is they really at that point only do bug fixes, which are very rare in GP, especially as we get away from a version after a year or two. There's virtually no bugs to fix. But bug fixes are in there, security updates. If there's some vulnerability that is uncovered, they will fix that. But in extended support, they will not add features. So the product is locked in, and it is the way it's going to be through the 5-year extended support timeframe. So if you're waiting on a feature or you'd like to see something, that's not coming in extended support. So those are really the biggest differences, I think.
Great, thank you. Sandy, I have a question for you. Currently running on GP 2013. Can I be upgraded to a current version? And what are my options?
Definitely, you can be upgraded. There is a specific path that has to be followed, and in some cases it goes through multiple steps to get to the most current version, and that's due largely because of table changes along the way. So there are some steps to be able to take, but we would be happy to evaluate with you exactly what it would take to get from GP 2013 to the current version, absolutely as possible. And we'd be happy to work with you on that.
And Sandy, how would somebody go about that, reaching out to talk about that?
Good question. So the last slide of this webinar will have ways that you can reach out to us. If you have a strategic account manager who contacts you periodically, that would be Lisa or Kyle or Ashley, you can certainly bring that up with them. But you can also reach out to any one of us directly if you have email addresses for us as well. So you can also telephone LBMC Technologies. And again, I have a slide at the end that has contact information in it.
Great, thank you. Kenneth, I have a follow-up question. I'll direct this one to you. So Sandy mentioned the business process review. What's the rough estimate cost on a business process review, and what does that entail?
That's a good question. And unfortunately, it's one of those answers. It depends, because every client is different in terms of the solutions that you're using, in terms of all the different things you may be doing within Dynamics GP, the third-party solutions, integrations, other kind of customizations, perhaps. So that's part of what we would need to go through relative to assessing your situation and also discussing the scope of that. I had a question. One of the other questions on here I think I can answer together with this is that if a client had a significant process redesign and modernization that they felt like they needed to go through ahead of the implementation, how you would go about, looking at that. Would that be pre, making a decision on software, or post making a decision on software? And it certainly would be pre making a decision on software. And so in terms of scoping out that BPR, sometimes the scope of that gets extended because of what you're really wanting to look at, because maybe you've got significant issues in the marketplace from a competition standpoint and things you need to do to automate. And so that BPR could, be scoped in a lot of different sizes and shapes, depending upon a client and what their needs are. I will say that that in some cases, the scope of these kind of extends past, what we would consider typically in a BPR. And we would call that, in our terminology, more of a technology solution roadmap, where you may need to look at your business more holistically, not just within your financial solutions, but perhaps in your customer solutions, like your CRM solutions, or some other things you've got in your whole ecosystem of enterprise solutions. And we have some different methods that we would go about looking at these things in a much more broader context. Along those lines, to kind of answer another question that kind of relates to the same kind of topic, there was a question around if the upgrade itself, to upgrade GP from where I'm at today, is going to require a significant significant amount of money in order to do that, because of where you are today versus where you would need to do to get current. Should I be looking at upgrading, or should I be looking at another cloud-based solution? And I would say that if you believe that your upgrade would be a significant investment, that it's the perfect time to look at really what you should be doing and where you'd want to be spending that money long term. And this would be the time to do that. You don't want to do a really expensive upgrade on a solution that has a defined life cycle, through 2028 and beyond. And you may also be struggling with things where you've got business requirements that aren't really being fully met any longer with with GP today, perhaps, or you need different things that maybe you can't get out of GP today. So I would say that would be a perfect time to go ahead and consider that before you make that kind of investment.
Thanks, Kenneth. Brian, I pose the same question to you. If an organization is looking at a significant investment to upgrade, what are some things they should take into consideration?
Well, I think Kenneth summed it up nicely. Is, depending on the dollars involved, you really do want to be careful about investing, tons of dollars in a product that we know is at some point, going to be completely sunset, although there's no end date for existing customers to have to worry about that. But we also know Microsoft. And so when they stop, or reduce their investment into new features and enhancing the product, it's okay to at least check out other things. You might look at Business Central. You might look at, which is a pure SaaS cloud product. Sandy mentioned Sage Intacct, which we do a lot of. You might look at those and still come back to Dynamics GP for the time being. And so that's fine. But anytime you're faced with an upgrade, it's always a good time just to review. Is this really the right thing or the best thing for us to be doing as an organization going forward? And so, and if it's a very expensive upgrade, then there's a really good reason to take a pause there.
Thanks, Brian. Sandy, I have this question for you from an attendee. You covered it briefly, but could you define the difference between upgrade, migrate, and implementation?
Sure. So upgrade is taking existing data and tables and adding new feature set to it. But it's not changing the code that is generated in background. So GP is coded in dexterity, and an upgrade would mean that the code remains the same. It would just update the tables with any new information and features. A migration typically is leaving a code set and going on to a different kind of a code set. So migration into a new environment where you're taking data and bringing it into a new code set using that new code. Implementation really kind of happens across both of those. With an upgrade, there's less implementation than there would be in a migration, but there should be implementation in both upgrade and migration. Even at the least in an upgrade, you should always be relying on us, your partner, to provide to you a training session that shows you what's new in the version that you upgraded to. In some cases where they came from a really old version, that can be a lot of new features that are added to your solution set. So at the very least in an upgrade, you should plan to get implementation to include the training for what's new in your solution.
Thank you, Sandy. Follow-up question for you regarding the modern lifecycle and upgrades and fixes. So is Microsoft planning on ending sales of GP to new clients for just its lifecycle support, or also the modern lifecycle? Will they're basically they're curious if the version of 18.5 and above are going to be sunset as of 2028?
We don't have the detail for that. What we know is based on the roadmap in the slide that I showed, which says that 18.5 and future releases, which we're already guaranteed there will be an 18.6 coming out in October, and they're just leaving it open to say that any of those versions on that modern life cycle are available for support through 2028 and into the future. Now, I will say that that date has changed a number of times and continues to push forward. So we don't really know for sure exactly when, but that's their stated dates right now.
Okay, great. And as a follow-up question, with the modern lifecycle GP product, will there be any enhancements? It seems like one of the first slides indicated there would be.
Yes, and we're already getting kind of sneak peeks into the things that are going to be new features within 18.6 in October this year. So yes, there will be usability release things. And from that slide that I had the URL link on, you can go vote on the things that would be part of that usability option. Microsoft is actively using that as means for deciding what they're going to put into new versions. And then I also would say, 18.5 is the first stated version that supports Windows 11. So, even as you're considering your upgrade in your operating systems, 18.5 is the first one that claims to be supported on Windows 11. So even those kinds of interoperability things are a part of your considerations.
Great. Kenneth, I'll direct this next question to you. Attendee currently using ERP Report Manager and on a very old version of GP. Do they have to recreate those reports if they upgrade? And how long is the expected upgrade process to do all of this?
I probably would need some more information. When you say ERP Report Manager, I'm not sure exactly what that is unless Sandy or Brian are familiar with that term. Most individuals who are on old versions of GP were originally using a product called FRX, and then that was replaced ultimately by Management Reporter. So typically in an upgrade, your Management Reporter is part of that upgrade process. So those reports kind of come forward. It doesn't mean that there may not have to be some adjustments made to those after or during or after that upgrade. That does happen from time to time. But generally speaking, if you're on Management Reporter, that is part of the upgrade process. And I'll kind of defer to Sandy for more details on that. As far as the length of time to do the upgrade process, again, that depends. It depends on how many iterations we have to go through for the upgrade. Because you do, depending on how many versions you are behind, you have to basically upgrade to the next supported version. And there's certain it may take 5 or 6 different steps to get you from where you are to where the most current version. That being said, typically from start to finish, I would say that most upgrades, and typically an upgrade is going to include both a test upgrade where we validate that everything upgraded properly outside of your production environment. And then once that's all checked off, then we'll do a production upgrade. So in order to get through that process and allow the client time to validate and test the upgrade, you're typically looking between 4 to 6 weeks of total duration probably to work, to get an upgrade project from beginning to end. Now, we have some clients who have bigger deployments of GP and third-party solutions that may take longer than that. But in most cases, for most clients, 4 to 6 weeks would be a pretty good timeline for total duration for how long that would take.
Right. And as a follow-up question to that, if an organization is looking at implementing some automation with AP processes, let's say they're deciding, down the road to change ERP systems and move to the cloud, should they hold off on that AP automation project?
You're giving me all the "it depends" questions, but that's fine. Because the reality is this is why we're having this conversation, because kind of working your way through all these things is a conversation. It's not something that we can necessarily cover in this webinar, and it's not something that we can just send you emails about and we can text about and figure it out. It does require conversation and kind of strategic thinking. And it really kind of goes back to the other points that we were making. So the answer is no. If AP automation is important to you, then we want to, we would like to look and see how we can support that for you, because you can't wait on some of this stuff in order to accomplish the things you need to from a business standpoint. That being said, it would change perhaps the kind of solutions you may be looking for, right? Because there are some third-party AP automation solutions that work very well with Dynamics GP, but then may not play nice with other ERP solutions. So if you feel like in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to be moving to a cloud-based ERP solution, you'd want to be looking at AP automation solutions that could potentially work with both GP, but also have a defined integration with the ERP solution you may be considering. Or maybe you look for a more generic AP automation solution that has the ability to work with any ERP solution. And we do support one of those products. It's a product from Highland called OnBase. And we've built integrations between this product and support integrations with both Dynamics GP, Business Central, and Sage Intacct. So that product, you could go ahead and implement that solution on GP, and then very easily in the future, if you go to Business Central or you go to Sage Intacct, we would have a path to be able to use all that the things you've invested in, all the documents, all the workflows, all the keywords, all the things you're using to manage those documents. That would just seamlessly go along, because that product, the OnBase Highland product, wouldn't be changing. Just your ERP solution would be changing.
That's great. Thank you. Follow-up question, going back to, we're talking about cloud hosting and having organizations allow LBMC to host their environment. Are there any industry-specific compliance requirements that organizations need to consider when upgrading and then moving to a cloud-hosted environment? For instance, government contractors, HIPAA compliance requirements, those types of things when related to cloud hosting.
Is that to me, Nicole?
Yes.
The answer is yes. There are certain industries who are heavily, have heavy compliance kind of needs, and so certainly you want to make sure to work with us to ensure that the hosting providers that we select have those types of meet those compliance requirements, whether it's HIPAA or whether it's other security-related compliance. In fact, some of these cloud providers, such as Microsoft, have certain segmented cloud platforms that we would use for people that are maybe in the government space or highly secured or regulated industries. So there are options there. Those options are more expensive for obvious reasons, but there are options there. So we would want to understand your compliance needs and make sure we look at the right solutions for that. Another common compliance thing that does come up from time to time is clients who want to control where their data resides, and that data would not reside, let's say, in a non-US country, right outside the US. And there are also options with that as well for these solution cloud providers, where we can designate those types of things, so that you would know that your data is never going to be stored in any kind of server or any location that's going to be outside of the continental United States. So those are all things we'd want to talk about and consider as we find the right solution for each client.
Okay, and then as an alternate question, what on-premise solutions would LBMC recommend? So far, we have spoken a lot about cloud solutions. Is Dynamics 365 available as an on-premise version?
I'll let Brian answer that.
Brian, I'll direct that question to you.
Yeah, good question. It does come up, but Dynamics 365 Business Central, which is the mid-market program, which most GP customers would map to if they were staying in the Microsoft family, and Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain, or the AX product. Both of those do have options to deploy on premises, so you can have them on your own servers. We actually have a few clients that run Business Central on-prem. If you don't have a stable internet connection, then sometimes cloud accounting is not an option. So, and you might have a plant or a warehouse that's out in the middle of still somewhat nowhere, and if they can't be online regularly and consistently, then getting to a cloud solution is a problem. So Microsoft allows you to run those on your own servers if you like, full functionality and so forth. It takes a good amount of hardware to deploy those things, but they work, and they work fine. Sandy mentioned the Sage product, the Intech product. That is SaaS only. So there's one copy of Intech running in the world, and tens of thousands of customers using that copy. It's more complex than that, but in simple terms, that's what it is, and that is, there's no option to pull that down and deploy that locally.
Great, Brian, thank you. I'll answer this one quickly. The very long link at the beginning of today's webinar that Sandy shared will be included in the follow-up email for any of those that want to make sure that they let Microsoft hear their voice on voting. So we'll answer that. And then I have one last question. We have just for a couple minutes left. Sandy, this question is for you. When will 18.6 be available?
It's the October 2023 release, so it's usually out the first week of October. So first week of October.
Okay, great. In our post-event survey, if you'd be interested in a webinar to go through the updates, features, and functions of 18.6, feel free to let us know. We're always taking your suggestions as we're planning out relevant and impactful content for our clients and prospects. That's all the time that we have today for questions as we're wrapping up. Any questions that did not get answered today, we will be sure to answer those and send them out as part of the follow-up. So please feel free to still drop in a question in the Q&A, or you can submit it in your survey.
Great, thanks, Nicole. So in wrapping up, I just want to tell you that there are a couple of additional learning and connection opportunities. We'd love to have the opportunity to chat with you personally. I'm going to be presenting 2 sessions, one on BC and one on GP at the Dynamics Con, which is in Scottsdale, in a month or so. And then in October, a bunch of us will be at the Community Summit in Charlotte. We would love to be able to meet you there. We have an office there, so there'll be a bunch of us that will be attending. We do have a booth number 635. You can find several of us there off and on throughout the event, that several-day event, 5-day event. So we'd love to see you and speak with you and take that opportunity for you to have some additional GP learning and or other products learning, BC. And I'll turn it back over to you, Nicole.
All right, thanks, Sandy. As we wrap up today's webinar, we hope that you found this webinar impactful and valuable for your time. We appreciate your joining us today. We discussed the benefits and best practices and next steps for Dynamics GP users. So we wanted to highlight that in 2 weeks from today, we will be doing another session about the power of cloud ERP. We'll have 2 of our experts, Dynamics ERP expert Patrick Johnson and our Sage ERP expert Glenn Sharp, we'll be presenting both solutions and evaluating what's best for your organization based on your needs and requirements. If you'd like to go ahead and register, you can just scan the QR code there. We'll also include an invite to you following this event. Please contact us, please reach out. As a reminder, you will be getting a post-event survey. By submitting that survey, you'll be entered to win the Solo Mini Mesa bonfire. We'll be sending that out in a week. So please make sure that you complete that survey. Thank you all for attending today. We certainly appreciate your time and investment with LBMC, and we look forward to reaching you in the future. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.